Can you remember those moments in gaming? You must have a few. Moments where you see something new and completely unique. It could be the jump from 2D to 3D, a revolutionary control scheme, or a new method of storytelling. But I bet you can also remember those moments where you see something gimmicky, or something that adds nothing new to the genre. In the medium, the developers at Bloober Team take advantage of next-generation hardware to seamlessly render two realities in real time. It's something we've never seen in gaming to date, but in our reality, it's never anything greater than an achievement in technology. I'm Twinsticks, and this is my review of the medium. The medium's dual reality technology isn't quite revolutionary, but it's not a gimmick either. It has purpose as we play as Marianne, a medium with the ability to visit the spirit world to help the dead cross over to the afterlife. When this mechanic is first introduced, it's exciting, as it's something we've never seen before, and it soon becomes clear how it can benefit gaming as a whole. Because having two worlds on screen at once gives us an extra environment to explore. There's the mundane material world, and in contrast, the paranormal spirit world, both being distinctly different from each other. They're so different that I often found myself inspecting both sides, like I was playing a haunting game of Spot the Difference. An open doorway in the material world looks normal, but in the spirit world, it's covered by a thick layer of skin. Or a regular hallway in the material world is lined with bones in the spirit. If you're using the material world to navigate, you'll often shudder as something disturbing catches your eye on the other side of the screen. Exploring and inspecting both worlds is one of the medium's great strengths, but the dual realities also tie into gameplay, usually to solve asymmetrical puzzles. Using an out-of-body experience, we can freely roam the spirit world in search of a spirit well to charge our powers. Then once charged, a spirit blast is used to open a new route in the material world. There's also a spirit shield used to walk through swarms of moths. It's not much, and I think the technology, which is impressive from a visual standpoint, could have been better used to benefit gameplay, rather than just puzzles we've seen before, shown using split screen. Look at the chase sections for example. These sections flick between both worlds seamlessly, and admittedly do look incredible, but most of the time, we're just holding down sprint and pushing forwards on the thumbstick. We just sit there, watching the technology play out before us. Because, in the absence of new gameplay, the medium is a standard walking simulator with Resident Evil style puzzles. We walk around an area, interacting with objects, and each object reveals information about the narrative. Games like this live and die by how engaging these moments are. How interesting is the information given by each item? Well, the medium does an excellent job here. All of the items we interact with add relevant information to Marianne's story. A lot of the time I wasn't 100% sure on what was going on, but I was still intrigued due to the items. There's also puzzles, with most being extremely simple, but there were a few standout moments in the late game. For one puzzle, we have to unlock a door by finding a code, which sounds simple, doesn't it? But in the area we're exploring, there are different clues. It's not obvious which one is correct, so we go to the door, try a code, and when it fails we head back to the drawing board to think of another solution. It's amazing, but this mentality should have been applied to all of the puzzles, as they're usually too simple. The puzzles where we combine items required no thought whatsoever, as it was always glaringly obvious which items went together. And other times we're searching for one item, a handle for a mechanism was a recurring theme. Bloober are trying to follow Resident Evil here, which also requires one or two items for its puzzles. But in Resident Evil, these roadblocks force us to explore the world in search of the item, a world which we know is full of horror. We also have limited resources, slow reload times, clunky movement and more, which combine to make us feel vulnerable, like the odds are always against us. But in the medium we don't have any of this, and this is really its biggest failure, because the medium isn't scary. The locations we're exploring are scary, like the Neva Resort, an old hotel where a brutal massacre took place. But nothing is added on top of this premise. We do learn more about the massacre, as we learn about a nurse who began murdering people, but we never see any evidence of this in the world, other than a few blood-splattered walls or a few blood-stained clothes. We could have seen the spirit of the nurse haunting the hallways, or meet her victims as we explore the spirit world, but we don't. We only ever see dead people, on walls, locked stationary in place, which is more of an art exhibition than something we should be scared of. And if we did happen to find this troubling to look at, we just walk away to safety. We rarely feel in any danger as we're left to wander through these haunting locations like we're taking a Sunday stroll in the forest. Good horror is like being on a roller coaster. The suspense as you slowly climb to the peak, and the adrenaline rush once you fall back down. In the medium, we occasionally have this, like one time we look in a mirror. The first time we look, nothing happens.
Marianne, you look like shit.
But when we return, we see someone in its reflection. This is great, but these moments are far too rare. The monsters are also not scary. They look scary, but their voices are definitely not. They're always really quiet in the mix, and they need more post-processing effects to make them sound demonic. What this monster is saying is horrifying, but the delivery just doesn't work. Let's look at another line which doesn't work. Listen to the "let me in" bit.
No! Let me out! Let me out!
Let me in!
Now compare this to the same line from a film called The Nightmare by Rodney Asher.
Man, he was like, hello, I was wondering if you could do me a favor.
What kind of favor?
Let me in!
Which one do you think is scarier? It's not the medium, is it? And a lot of the time, the monsters are in the background and never up close, which can work, as it's unnerving to know that something is out there stalking us. I mean, look at Jaws as an example. But again, there's no payoff. The moments where the monsters are up close and personal are always too easy, and again, we don't feel threatened. But, and this is a huge but, even if we were scared by these monsters, we're told by our characters that we shouldn't be. Because whenever the monsters are on screen, our characters hurl insults at them, making them look like idiots. Look at this moment where Marianne is being suffocated. She should be freaking out, but instead she's just like, I feel sorry for you, you're nothing. If she's not scared, then why should we be? I suppose you could argue that the medium isn't a pure horror game, it's more of a narrative-driven experience. So, if we consider the game solely on that, how does it do? Well, thankfully, the narrative is very good. There's the overarching story, where we try to remember Marianne's past and discover how she got her powers. But we also have the story of Neva and its many subplots. There's offshoots set against the backdrop of World War II, and a story about a secret spy investigating the resort, all of which are weaved into the main narrative to create a surprisingly dense and intriguing story. I really appreciated the way the narrative is told to us, as we're given snippets of information and asked to piece it together ourselves. You'll usually have an idea of what's happening, and then one item will reveal a key piece of information that confirms your theory. It's really clever stuff, as it's ambiguous enough to be intriguing, but not too ambiguous that it's hard to follow. The characters also avoid being presented as caricature heroes or villains, because for everything they do good, they equally do something bad. A character called Thomas, for example, puts his daughter into care, but then murders her carers when he realises she's been abused. We're also challenged to empathise with these people after we're shown them acting in terrible ways. We'll see someone burning down a house with children in, but then learn about their traumatic childhood and ultimately how that created the villain we see today. This isn't new, as many games do this, but it's still great in the medium. It is bizarre though, how certain moments like this are exceptional, but then others are, well, pretty diabolical actually. There's every single cliché you can imagine: a black cat crossing your path, a gunshot that cuts to black, a POV shot showing someone watching you in the distance, Marianne losing her memory due to a coma, and the fact that someone rings you and is like, I have answers, come to Neva, and Marianne doesn't question it. She just pops on a motorbike and heads there without question. Some lines of dialogue are also truly awful. Rage is like anger, but more. This is not only ridiculous, but why has Marianne, a person who looks like she's in her 30s, never heard of the word rage? Here's another line where we visit the place that the monster first murdered someone. It was where it made its first kill, where it tasted death. And liked it. And liked it. Who wrote this? Okay, final one. What is this? A devil's tea party? Yep, that is actually in the game. This is a sort of writing you see in fan fiction, but this is Xbox's first next-gen exclusive. I mean, there's even a character called Sadness. This labelling things as emotions is everywhere in the medium, as people will describe the emotions in the room and say things like, "This place smells of madness," and when Marianne finds a razor, she's like, "This isn't a razor, it's guilt, shame, regret." What are you talking about? It's nonsense. The writers are trying to add weight to their surroundings by describing painful emotions that happened here. But it's just not necessary, as the environments we're exploring are already enough. We don't need the writing to tell us that a room is full of grief. So yeah, parts of the medium are exceptional, due to the way it tells its story and the next-gen visual flair. The design of the spirit world was chilling, with something interesting waiting around every corner. But like its cast of characters, for everything the medium does good, it equally does a lot bad. I'm again reminded of Watch Dogs Legion, which also introduced a revolutionary mechanic, and like the medium, it never fully capitalised on its new technology. In both games, neither systems are gameplay gimmicks, but they need a lot more work before they're truly revolutionary.